In the last video, we set up the weapon attaching so that it attaches to the hand of the third person mesh, but the hand of the first person mesh, well, the hand of the first person mesh when we're controlling it, and the hand of the third person mesh when we are not. So what we're going to do in this video is make it so whenever we shoot the zombie, so currently I'm on the client, it gives us points. Because currently it does not, but if I play as the server, it does. So we need to set that up to work over the network. So I'm going to leave out part of this for now, and I will show you what we're going to do to fix it later. That's regarding the owner and calling RPCs. So I'm sure most of you probably understand it, but those that won't, hopefully it'll kind of help reinforce it into their head. So currently we have our fire function. Let's go down to it. All right. I want to go to the 1911 class actually and find the 1911 header real quick. Okay, so we have our fire function. So currently we're firing only on the client, and whenever we make a hit, we call hit on the zombie. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to kind of swap out certain things to be performed on the server while having some other stuff being performed on the client. So in order to do that, we're going to first make just a simple server RPC. So I'm going to make those two functions public. I don't make a new protected section just for this. But what I want to do is I want to make this server RPC on the weapon base. Now that I'm thinking about it. So I'm going to open up the weapon base.h and .cpp. And under protected, we're going to do u function. Let's do server reliable and with validation. We're going to do void server underscore fire. And what we're going to pass in is a t array of f hit results. Should I do that or result? Let's see. Do I want to do that or do I want to just perform? Let's think. I think instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pass in a location or an F vector and an F rotator to send the line trace out with instead. So that way the server gathers its own results. And so instead we're going to do F vector muzzle location and F rotator muzzle rotation, like so. This may change later on, but for now, that's what we're doing. So we need a Boolean version and then another void version. Now the Boolean is going to be server underscore fire underscore validate, and the third one is going to be implementation. Now for the implementation, I want to set this up to be overridable. So I'm going to do virtual void server underscore fire implementation. Now let's create the definition of the validate, set it to return true, and same thing with the implementation. And we're not going to bother really doing anything to the implementation. So right here, we're going to be overriding that in our 1911 class. So I'm going to copy this and paste it inside of our 1911 header. So it's going to be virtual void server underscore fire implementation, the parameters, and then override, like so. Not sure what that's complaining about, but let's go ahead and create the definition of the implementation. Okay, so I want to print out a log. Server fire function, like so. And let's see. For now, I'm just going to simply try to make a call. So I'm going to do server underscore fire. And then we have the two parameters. So for the line trace, let's see, call it perform line trace. Let me open up the weapon skeleton. So it's just muzzle socket. So we're going to do weapon mesh get socket location. Socket we're going to get is muzzle socket. Then we're going to copy that, but do get socket rotation, like so. So now we're calling the server RPC to server underscore fire implementation, and we should see that print out. Now, that thing that I was talking about earlier, we will only see that getting printed out when the server fires. We will not see this getting printed out. We will see a warning when the client goes to fire, and that's regarding ownership. Okay, let me relaunch the project. So let's see. I'm going to fire on the server fire function. So that's working as intended. Let's go to the client and fire. As you can see, no owning connection for the 1911. Function server fire will not be processed. Now this is due to the ownership. So we are not the owner of the 1911, even though it's in our hand and stuff like that. We need to be the owner in order to call RPCs. So inside of our character base begin play, when we go to spawn the weapon, we need to also set the owner of the weapon. And this is how it's going to have to be whenever we purchase like a weapon off a wall. We're going to have to make sure we set the owner to the person who is purchasing that weapon. So in order to do this, we can see if we just press comma, there we go. You can see here's another parameters. So we have the U class, which is our starting weapon class. Then the second parameter is F actor spawn parameters. And inside of that, so F actor spawn parameters, I'm just gonna call it spawn params. We're gonna do spawn params dot and look through the list. So here we have, we want it to make sure it always fails and stuff. If we want to set the instigator, or if we want to set the owner, which we do in our case. So we want to set the owner to equal this, which is our character class. And we're going to set spawn parameters as spawn params for the second parameter. And now we can compile. So now, whenever we go to fire on the client, we should see server fire function being printed out into the log. Okay, let's go ahead and start. And give it a try. So first things first, on the server fire functions printed. And now on the client, server fire function also printed. So it is in fact being run on the server. That's what we want. So now let me double check. So we have perform line trace. So I have that. I want to override, make another version of this as well inside of weapon-base.h. So I'm going to copy and paste it like so, but I want to make it take in a location and a rotation instead of the player, like so. I'm going to go ahead and create the definition and go over to it. So again, this is in the weapon base. I'm just going to create an overloaded perform line trace right here. And I'm going to copy all of this that is in our first perform line trace and paste it in our new overloaded one. So they're identical. So now what I want to do is I want to alter this. So I'm going to get rid of the start and rotation and just set the end to equal muzzle location plus muzzle rotation, the two parameters, but convert rotation to a vector and then multiply it by the 5,000. So then for the get line trace, we're going to pass in muzzle location instead of start. And same thing for the drawing of the debug line. And we are good to go, except for this add ignored actor. So what we want to do, we have we know who the shooting player is now because we set the owner to it. So what we can do is if get owner, what we're going to do is we're going to add ignored actor. The actor we're going to ignore is get owner, so the owner of the weapon. And that's going to, well, ignore the character. So now back in our 1911, we go to our server fire function. I'm going to go ahead and copy all of this and paste it in our server fire implementation. But we're going to change up a few things. So we're going to, instead of perform line trace and then passing in the player, what we're going to do is perform line trace. We're going to pass in the muzzle location and the muzzle rotation. And then for the zombie that's hit, what we're going to do is if get owner, we're going to pass in the get owner. But currently, it is said to take in a Nazi zombie character. Well, we need to cast it. So if, let's see, a Nazi zombie character player equals cast to a Nazi zombie character from get owner, we're going to pass in player. So we're just getting the owner, we're casting it to a Nazi zombie character and passing it to the hit function like so. So let's see here. What do I want to do right now? We're currently calling that on the server regardless. So what I want to do is if we're going to do a check. So get world is server. So if we're the server, let's go ahead and we're going to move it. So if is server, we're going to perform this setup here. So we're going to perform all the line traces. Otherwise, what we're going to do is perform the server RPC call. That way it runs on the server. And then for the hit results, just going to return a default T array of F hit results, just like so. Because I think I'm going to switch this up so it doesn't return really anything other than maybe a Boolean. So now let's go ahead and compile and see where we're at. And once everything is working, I will go through and kind of step by step go ahead and kind of break down what we've done because I know I'm probably going a bit fast. Okay, so we have the server, points are changing, we have the client. We can see the line traces on the server being produced from the client, which is what we want as well. We can also see if we look on the server at the bottom right, the slide/animation for the weapon is playing whenever we shoot. So that's good. So now what we need to do is we look back at our no, it's in our Nazi zombie character, I think. Yes. So if we look at our points, it's not set to replicate. So it's only being changed on the server. So what we need to do is we need to change points so that way it's replicated. So let's go ahead and copy the uh, get lifetime replicated props, put it in Nazi zombie character.cpp right below begin play, like so. Change a Nazi zombie character or a character base to a Nazi zombie character, and then change current weapon to points. And then we're going to include net/unreal network.h. And now the only thing we need to do is set points to replicate. So points is now replicated, like so. And now we can compile. So hopefully, now with the way we have it set up, we should see the points getting updated from the server onto the client. Alrighty. I think after this video, I think we're probably going to be working on the oh, what's it called? The I can't think of it. On the player state. Right? So we're seeing the points in the log, as you can see at the bottom left, right here. They're getting updated, but it's not for our interface. And if we look here, we created a an event that gets fired in Blueprint every time our points change. So we're gonna have to set up some way to tell us that the points have been changed. So we can do that via an OnRep. So we're gonna set this to be replicated using, we're gonna do u function, do void OnRep points changed. Then create that definition. And then in this OnRep, we are going to call that blueprint event. And this is also kind of gradually setting ourselves up for when we see and show other players points as well alongside of our own. So on points changed is right here. So let's look. Here we have increment points and decrement points. What we're going to do is, let's see, new points.broadcast points. We're going to put this in the onRep, like so. Then we're going to wrap increment points in if as authority. And same thing for decrement points. So, like so. And we can get away with calling the onRep points changed inside of the increment points and decrement points. So that way we are only broadcasting from the onRep. So now let's compile. And we hopefully should be good to go. Right, line 33. Oh, that's right. Replicated using. Set that to equal the onRep points changed. I want to move that down. Right, now that we're compiled, I'm just going to go ahead and move it down right above increment points and just Control S to save. Okay, now let's give it a try. As you can see, now the points are incrementing for the client and the server is still good as well. So if I shoot one, it increments by 100. If I shoot several, it increments by however many get hit. So we are now good to go. Our points are incrementing, and no matter how many players we have, they should all be set, and other clients should be able to get their points as well. So now that that is over with, I'm going to go ahead and pause it here. And I think in the next video, we're going to start working on the player state to get these kind of stats moved over to that player state class and out of our character. So that way there's less clutter here that we don't really need. So I will see you then.